daylight breaks through the window pane.
Hello from sunny Provence. Today I'm going to show you how I painted this typical local city scene. I feel like there are a lot of cityscape tutorials on YouTube, but they're mostly gray and rainy, and I'm here to bring you a bit of sunshine. Firstly, I decided to use masking fluid to mask out my figures. This step was absolutely non-important as the whole painting is quite light, but I did it just to be safe. As usual, I start with the sky, and I always use phthalo blue for this because I think that it's a perfect color for the Mediterranean sky.
Spirits worn thin.
And I also use a tiny bit of yellow ochre closer to the horizon line.
It's the daily grind blues dragging me down.
I will have some mountains in the distance, and for that I add imperial purple to the mix.
Day out.
I also have quite a lot of trees and vegetation in general in this scene, so I cover those areas with olive green. But then I thought that it looks way paler than I wanted, so I added a little bit of yellow ochre.
The daylight breaks through the window pane. Morning coffee steam.
For my initial wash on the buildings, I always use Verona Gold Ochre because I feel like that is the exact yellow color of the buildings in the light here.
Trudging down that same old street. The boss man scowl. The clock steady tick. Paperwork.
And you also see me switching to a bigger flat brush because I do need to be careful since the color is that light.
My spirits worn thin.
I add a little bit of burnt sienna to the previous color and use that for the roof.
This ain't no way to win. Ooh, it's the daily grind.
I also splashed it on the side of the building because I wanted to create texture in the part of the house that will be in shade. And you see me doing the same with burnt umber and then splashing indigo.
No end in sight. I'm dreaming of a life where
I add more burnt sienna to the existing mix and use that dark mixture to separate the side of the building. I think alizarin crimson is my favorite red, and since it's so cool, I think it creates an amazing contrast in a warm scene.
me again. Put on my boots, laces tight.
I use burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to intensify the car shadow and to separate it from the car itself. The dark brown mix I already had on my palette goes to the car seats area.
Steady tick, paperwork and phone.
And then I start indicating shadows with phthalo blue, and again I feel like this shadow color is everywhere here. Red is also quite popular, but generally it's mostly different shades of blue, from dusty pales and pastels to extremely vibrant. And it's always a good idea to incorporate the same colors to different areas of your paintings. That's why I'm using it for the car.
Dragging me down, pushing me around like an old circus clown. Day in.
I decided that it's time to intensify my greenery, so I add sap green and go over all the trees and bushes on the windows.
Where it all feels right.
For the road, I decided to add a thick amount of yellow ochre to the already existing brown puddle on my palette, but to be honest, I should have done the road earlier, but I got lost with other things, and that's why I often keep spraying the paper with water to keep the wash alive. And that's all for the first wash. Now I'm taking yellow ochre and using it for the more shadowy parts of the buildings in the distance. For the second building, I added a bit of burnt sienna to separate them so they don't look like a yellow blob in the background.
Boss man scowl. clock steady tick, paperwork and
I've mixed almost all of my earth tones and now I'm starting to work on details on the main building.
goes my spirits worn thin.
I did this scribble to suggest a mansard roof that is very common here, and I think it turned out quite nice.
It's the
I also needed to intensify the shadows, so I used a thicker amount of phthalo blue.
pushing me around like an old circus clown, day in, day out.
To suggest windows, I needed my mixture to be extremely dark, so I added neutral tint to the mix.
Where it all feels right. Ooh, ooh.
And my mountains completely disappeared. That's why I'm using Imperial Purple again, and this time I'm mixing it with the phthalo blue.
Waking me again, put on my boots, laces tight and neat. Another day trudging down that same old street. The boss man scowl, the clock steady tick, paper.
I'm also mixing Imperial Purple with this light yellow mix on my palette for creating a shadow color, and honestly, I feel like this is the best shadow I've painted in a long time. Shadows are hard, and when it's such a sunny scene, it's very easy to go overboard and they start looking like dark stains rather than a shadow. For the trees, I intensified my mix with undersea green, and then I also used burnt sienna, which neutralizes it a little bit.
Like an old circus clown, day in, day out, no end in sight.
Phthalo blue again here.
Another life where it all feels right.
And now onto the car. At first, I went over the initial wash with a thicker consistency of alizarin crimson and then used a mix with neutral tint for some details.
The daylight breaks through the window pane. Morning coffee steams, waking me again. Put on my boots, laces tight and neat. Another day trudging down that same old street.
And I also do the same process with the blue car here.
The clock steady tick, paperwork and phone calls, it makes me sick. The lunch break comes and goes, my spirit.
I used quite a dark mix with neutral tint for the windshields, but I then realized it was a mistake. If I could go back, I would make them much lighter, but unfortunately I can't.
It's the daily grind blues, dragging me down, pushing me around like an old circus clown, day in, day out, no end in sight.
I used the same dark mix, but much more watered down to indicate shadows from the shutters. And then I felt like these green bushes are looking flat and uninteresting, so I decided to add flowers. I then spray this area with water so they blend in and don't look like dots.
Steams waking me again. Put on my boots, laces tight and neat. Another day trudging down that same old street.
This side building also looked very sad, so I decided to add texture there with brown colors.
The clock steady tick, paperwork and phone calls.
I used a very thick amount of Pyrrole Scarlet for their rear lights, and then I also used my cadmium-free orange.
And thin.
Since those two paints are quite opaque, they can go over almost any color.
No way to win. Ooh, it's the daily grind.
At this point, I thought the road looked too light, so I used a brown mix on my palette to darken it.
Like an old circus clown, day in, day out, no end in sight.
The final stage is adding figures, but honestly, I'm not good at painting them, and that's one of the areas I'm trying to improve in. And the only way I can improve is to actually paint them in different scenes, so please bear with me.
Window pane, morning coffee steams, waking me again. Put on my boots, laces tight and neat. Another day trudging down that same old street. The boss man
In the end, I always use white gouache to bring back some highlights and paint in some intricate details, like on the windows here.
me sick. The lunch break comes and goes, my spirits worn thin. Same old routine.
And I'm finally finished. I really hope you liked this video, and I would be even more happy if you learned something. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!